Thank you for Patreon now for donating to the Patreon.
Hey guys, it's Vandiazo back in another card fight Vanguard deck profile. If you guys enjoyed, don't like, comment, subscribe, and 1 star, shall we? This time we are covering Shadow Paladin, Blaster Revenger. So, Dragruler Phantom has been revealed for a while. I thought we were going to get more support cards for Avengers. We didn't, so I just decided to finally do the deck profile on it. So, Dragruler Phantom brings back the old feel of Illusionary Avenger, Mordred Phantom, and it gives Blaster Dark another shining opportunity in Shadow Paladin, because when you're playing Shadow Paladin, you're either playing one of two decks, Luards or Blaster Dark. There's no such thing as Revengers, apparently. It's just, Revengers are a subsection of Blaster Dark, not the other way around. So, just all that stuff to keep in mind. Anyways, next interesting, it works well with both archetypes, so let's go ahead and get started, shall we? First up, we have our starter in Crisis Revenger, Fritz. Grade 0 boost, 10k shield, 6k base, auto, and road upon draw a card. Then if your opponent's Vanguard's a grade 1 grade, you get a quick shield ticket to your hand. So, standard starter ability, that's special about it. You get a draw, you get a quick shield, that's all. So, this can really be any starter you want. Yes, there are cards that specifically call Revenger units. None of them work for grade 0s. So, this can kind of be whatever you want. I just choose Fritz because, 1, like I said, it's a Revenger deck, or mostly a Revenger deck. And then 2, he has 2 swords! If you know me, I love twin swords. And obviously, because he has 2 swords, he gets to be the starter by default. So, go on Fritz. Then we have our trigger lineup, 4 draw PG and Dark Shield MacLear, grade 0 boost, 0 shield, 5k base, draw trigger, continues down over your 4 sounds in deck, and auto guard 1 plays, discard 1 from your hand whenever you use copy it on a battle. So it's just the same PG that most PGs are. I choose to run the PG over 12 crit because I don't think 12 crit is necessary. I mean, yeah, a whole front row of extra crits, that's dangerous, yeah, fuck yeah. But I do think the draws are more necessary because they help keep up hand, and not to mention the fact that, there have been many games where the PG has saved my ass, and if it was a 30k shield, I would have died. So, 4 of the PG, because I think now I have to, whether it's by choice or whether it's because half the time I would have died if I didn't. So, 4 of. Then we have 8 crit and 4 copies of Death Feather Eagle, 4 copies of Grim Revenger. The weird thing is, whenever I used Blaster Dark before, whenever I used him and got Twin Drive, I would always drive check a Death Feather Eagle in my drive check. But, now, whenever I play this deck, I don't. Maybe it's just because the deck is now Revenger-based and not fully focused on Blaster Dark like it was ever before, but whatever. 4 of Grim Revenger, though, for the since it has the Revenger name. This one actually doesn't matter on the name. And then 4 heals and Abyss Healer, because we don't have an Abyss Revenger, but yeah, I don't run the Heal Guardian because I just don't like the Heal Guardians. If the Heal Guardian was a Revenger, I'd think about it. I think I would still say no, but I would at least think about it. But yeah, they're detrimental to my playstyle. They're not something I particularly like. If you want to run them, go ahead. There's no minus to them. I mean, they're a minus to me, but yeah. So anyways, 4 Abyss Healer, just cause. Then on to our grade 1s. 3 copies of Transient Avenger Masquerade. Okay, this is the most important grade 1 in the deck. And yet you're probably going to ask me, why do I run it at 3? Because literally I have seen every single copy without needing to search it. Every single game. And no matter, my entire lifetime of playing Transient, any deck that I've ever played this specific card in, I have always seen all the copies of it before the game ended. Whether I searched it, well, most of the time I actually didn't search it at all. It just ended up in my hand or my damage zone. I don't know how it happens. It just happens. This is the card I see consistently the most out of almost every card I play. There might be other cards out there with it, but this is the card I see the most. So, just 3 of Masquerade. Anyway, Cisco's grade 1 boost, 10k shield, 8k base, act, rear, counterblast 1, shove him to soul. Call a Blaster Dark from your drop zone to rear, and that unit gets plus 5 for the turn, continues to rear guard in the battle, boosted gets plus 3. Okay, so an 11k boost is really nice. It definitely is a good skill, especially because it's for free, even though it's not why I run it. I run it for that skill to call a Blaster Dark, because as much as you think Counterblast would be hard to come by in this deck, it's not really, or at least I don't have a Counterblast problem until I say, fuck it, it's time to go all out. In that case, I spend all of my Counterblast because I can and I will. So being able to call Blaster Dark is really helpful, especially because that means everything in the deck is an entire toolbox, because Dragruler Phantom works with both Blaster Dark and Revengers, so automatically he's really good for both of those senses since he's both a Revenger and a Blaster Dark. So, technically speaking, so that's really good. Not to mention the Blaster Dark is plus 5, and he works for regular Mordred in the sense that he's just getting you a Blaster Dark, and he gives you Soul, so you have Soul stack abilities for your other Soul Blasters. So around Transient Revenger Masquerade is really good. I could see if you want to bump him up to a 4 just to see him more consistently, but like I said, I see this thing without searching, so take that as you will. 3 of Masquerade, he's just a really good grade 1 in this deck, because one of your main focuses is Blaster Dark in the early game. Then we have 4 copies of Dark Armor Revenger Rinnal. Grade 1 boost, 10k shield, 8k base. He has fallen from grace. I don't know, when Raging Form was first released, this thing was hitting hard on every deck I ran it in. Now it's gotten worse. Like, when Raging Fall came out, it was like kind of it wasn't the worst grade 1 in my deck, but it was second worst grade 1 in my deck. Now it's just genuinely the worst grade 1 in my deck, but I can't just turn my back on him that easily. So auto Van or Rear, when this unit's attack or the attack it boosted hits a Vanguard, look at top 3, choose up to 1 Revenger card from among them, reveal it, put it to your hand, put it the rest of the bottom in any order. So it can get a trigger, it can get a grade 1, it can get a grade 2, it can get a grade 0, it can get a grade 3. So essentially, this is why Grim Revenger is here. Worst case scenario, you get to add a Grim Revenger in hand. Literally, that happened to me in a game, so that's fine. And as for anything else, you're hitting your target, so that's really nice. And then auto and retired from rear by your card's ability, Soul Boss 1. Your opponent chooses one of their rear guards and merges it. So you have your deck kind of has a Soul Blast problem, especially if you're me and you did a really stupid decision that was not worth it at all, and you question greatly why you did it when there are plenty of other options to do with that soul, but whatever. Anyways, Rinnal is good in the end game with that skill just because it can nuke whatever remaining interceptors there are, so you can quickly kill your opponent. As for the early game, the top 3 is really good, but like I said, somehow he has slowly been worse and worse each deck I put him in, and I feel really bad if I got rid of him, which is why I can't bring myself to do it. But so I'm just waiting for Bushy to give me a Revenger so I have at least a good reason to. So 4 of Rinnal, he's a good grade 1. He's just been kind of proving me wrong for a while. And then move on to our last grade 1, who was my worst grade 1 in my last Revenger deck, and now suddenly became my second best grade 1, only second to Transient Revenger, of course, and that is Self-Control Revenger Rakia. Grade 1 boost, 10k shield, 8k base, auto soul, once per turn. When your grade 3 unit Revenger in its card name is placed on by riding from a grade 2 Vanguard, so very specific. 1, this has to be in your soul already. There's no way to soul charge in this deck, so this has to be your grade 1 ride. Then you ride a grade 2. Doesn't matter what the grade 2 is, so it could be Blaster Dark and it will still go off for this. And then you specifically have to ride a grade 3 Revenger. If you do, search after 1 grade 1 Revenger, call to rearguard circles, rest and shuffle your deck. Why must you go through all this fucking work to do that? Also, why is it a once per turn? What can Shadows do? Can Shadows just, like, superior ride a bunch of Revengers on top of grade 2s? Because it specifies it has to be from a grade 2. What? I'm sorry, like, is there something I'm missing? Why is it a once per turn? Does Shadows have some bullshit capabilities I'm not aware of? That they can just start superior riding from grade 2 a bunch? Or, like, in the same turn, by the way. Or is it just like this is future-proofing for something that's very dangerous? Anyways, and then this other goes act rearguard once per turn, Soul Boss 2, choose a grade 2 Revenger and its card name from your drop, call to rearguard circle saying calm as it. So, yeah, I kind of fucked up in the game because I didn't realize that Dragruler costs soul, and I used my last 2 Soul Boss on Rakia when I didn't need to. I don't know why I felt like I needed to, but whatever. You can go any Revenger grade 2. Downside is it has to be specifically a Revenger grade 2, so you can't really get a free Blaster Dark from this. But, hey, he's fine. He gets one of your other 2 Revenger. Well, actually, no, he gets one of the other 3 Revengers, so he works really good in the early game when you have Soul to spare. His grade 1 skill, or at least when he's in Soul, it's okay. Like I said, questioning greatly why it's a once per turn, but whatever. The fact, though, that he can get you a Revenger... Or sorry, well, the fact that he can just get you a free Revenger for setup is really good. Because, like, even if it's not going to be useful that turn, it's still something. Like, you can get a Rakia and then just Soul Blast just to get a grade 2 in front of it. Or, like, get a Rinnal for setup. Or just get a Rearguard to sack. All around, Rakia is an amazing grade 1 in this deck. And I like it a lot. And I give it a 4. Especially because he can just call Transient. And then Transient can do skills. Then on to grade 2s. 2 copies of Dark Cloak Revenger Tartu. She is the same thing as Rinnal. She was the MVP of my Raging Form deck. And, well, next to Rinnal, of course. And then slowly but surely, she became, like, one of my worst cards. I don't know what happened to them. They fell from grace so quickly. So, yeah, Tartu's kind of the worst grade 2 in this lineup, but she's okay, I guess. Grade 2 intercept 5k shield, 10k base. Auto when it's placed on Vanderreer from hand. Soul Blast 1, switch after 1 grade 1 or less card Revenger in its card name. Call to rearguard circle, shuffle your deck at the end of the turn, murder that unit. Okay. Downside says, if you do call it, well, it has to be called from hand. And second off, if you do call, it's dying at the end of the turn. Plus sides, most of the time you're going to stack that rear guard anyways, especially if you're on Dragruler. It's just going to die anyway, so good on you. If you're playing, if you call Rinnal, then you have another soul, you can just use that to your advantage and kill something at the end of the turn to make it slightly harder for your opponent, because then they have to call another unit just to... make it so that rear guard retiring didn't matter, but even then, who cares? All around, Tartu is like, again, she was a good grade 2 in my opinion. then I don't know what happened. She just slowly became worse and worse as time went on. I don't know why this keeps happening with a lot of cards I use. Maybe that's just a sign that I should stop using new cards, because a lot of them become shit after a while, and it goes very quickly. Tartu, she works in the early game as a rush, but the only thing that she's done in this deck is been call fodder for Rakia and then been a 5k shield, which I will admit did save me in the end, because if I was 5k short I would have lost, but to be frank with you, that grade 2 could have been anything. All around, the Tartu is really good, and I know one day she's going to return to her former glory and then proceed to wreck everyone's ass that I use against them with, but until then I keep Tartu on the back burner, but she will prove me right that she will be a great asset in this deck. 2 of Tartu, nice grade 2, I have faith in you, my lady. Then we have 4 copies of Nullity Revenger Masquerade, grade 2, intercept 5k shield, 9k, 10k base. Literally every time I read these two, when I ran them in the same deck, I had to constantly check back and forth that their name wasn't the same. I don't know why I had that paranoia. Maybe it's just the fact that they're both called Masquerade. Anyways, auto Vanner Rear, when plays like a top 7, reveal up to 1 Illusionary, Revenger, Mordred, Phantom, or Blaster Dark from among them, put it to your hand and shuffle your deck. And if you put a card, you must kill one of your rear guards. So, on the plus side, if you just ride this and you have no rear guards, that's just a free ad. But, after that, then you have to start killing stuff. And he can't kill himself with that skill, so that's kind of a downside. But it's a free search of either a Blaster Dark or a Mordred Phantom, both of which are kind of like your MVP players in the early game. So, well, what am I saying? Kind of. They're both your MVP players in the early game, so you definitely want to see one of them. So, all around, that's really good, especially because it does without Counterblast or Soul Boss. And then continues Vanner Rear. During the battle, he attacked into a Vanguard, gets +3. Cool. So, regardless if it's being boosted, regardless if you pay any cost, he's just a 13k swing into any grade of Vanguard. So worst case scenario, if you are stuck on this because you missed a G assist and you don't have a grade 3 in hand, then he's at least a 13k swing, meaning he can hit force numbers. All around, Nullity Revenger is a really good grade 2. I like him. I think he's amazing, and he is one of the best Revengers in this deck, so 4 of. If not the best Revenger in this deck. Then we have 4 copies of Overcoming Revenger Rukea, grade 2 intercept, 5k shield, 10k base. Really gotta say I love the background, not so sure about the knight himself. Auto, when he's rode upon by a unit with Revenger in its card name, I'll give you a hint, literally every normal unit in this deck that isn't Blaster Dark is a Revenger. Look at top 3, choose up to 1 Revenger from among them with grade less than or equal to your opponent's Vanguard, reveal it, put it to your hand, and put the rest on the bottom in any order. Cool, so one of the top 3 is going to hand, the rest are going to bottom. That's fair. And then continues rear guard. If you have a grade 1 rear guard with Avenger and its card name in the same column as it, it gets +5. So that works during both players' turns. So both players' turns is a 15. Downside is with how this deck works, your front row will either be 2 Blaster Darks, or your front row will be a combination of Blaster Darks and Avengers, and you will have no back row whatsoever. So that 5k will never make a difference outside of the one swing it's going to get before Dragruler gets in. So, Rukea is a nice grade 2. It's a free 5k. At least makes whatever column it is a 31. I mean, not 31, 23 without force gifts. And at least he has a really decent on-ride upon skill. So, all around, I like him. I think he's a good grade 2. For some reason, I see him the least out of all of my cards. So, 4 of. Then we have 4 copies of the MVP in this deck, or at least in the early game, Blaster Dark. Grade 2, intercept, 5k shield, 10k base, auto Vanner Rear when placed. Not discard 1. Counterblast 1, your opponent chooses one of their rear guards and murders it. So, you do not get to pick, but they get to pick. Upside is, you're killing a rear guard. Downside is they kind of can get rid of the most useless rear guard, but you can kind of take advantage of that in the sense that whatever rear guard you get, eventually they will have to pick something that they don't want, and when they killed their own rear guard by choice, you can kind of piece together what's in their hand, especially if you know how the deck works, because then you can be like, oh, that wouldn't have been worth killing in that situation unless they have so-and-so in hand, or maybe they're planning for this instead, and then you can play around that. That's how I've seen Blaster Dark, and that's literally how I've won every game that I try with Blaster Dark. What I mean by that is if I spam Blaster Dark a lot, I will eventually get to that point where I know what's in their hand, and it's kind of easy to read from there. And then act Vanguard once per turn. If your opponent has no rear guards, drop a hand card, he gets +1 drive for the turn. Okay, so he gets twin drive. Like I said before, when I used to play Blaster Dark in real life, I would sack at least 1 crit whenever I would use his skill. Whenever I would use skill, I get at least 1 crit. Nowadays, I just get twin drive with no triggers. I don't know why. I don't know what happened. Did he betray me? Did I betray him? I don't know why. That's just what Blaster Dark does to me now. Either way, he's still a good grade 2 nonetheless. His skill might not be good, particularly, at least at this point in the game, but he acts as a good booster for other skills. So 4 of Blaster Dark, though that's not why I run him. I want to let that be clear. I do run him for his skills, not just because he supports the deck. So 4 of. Then we have 4 copies of our Okay, we can argue who the main grade 3 here is all we want, because in my opinion, this is the main grade 3, and Dragruler Phantom is anime boy moment, but in other people's eyes, it would be the other way around. But Illusionary Avenger, Mordred Phantom, grade 3 with Twin Drive, Force Gift, 12k base, 13k base. I don't know why the fuck I said 12. I really like how, I don't know if that's just a half moon, or if that's just like his hair glowing with it, but like, or it would be a crescent moon actually, but that looks really cool, like the full eclipse, and then kind of, that's either just hair or like a half crescent moon, but either way, that's still really cool. Anyways, auto van, not once per turn, for whatever reason. When your Blaster Dark is placed on where you get Imaginary Gift Force. Okay, here's what you do. You stockpile all your Blaster Darks, ride this first, get 1 Force marker, call 4 Blaster Darks, you got 4 free Forces. 5 Force 1s, all while your opponent's at grade 2. And that is without abusing the hell out of this thing. If this did not mandatorily grab a grade 2, you could get, I want to say 8? No, 11. You could get 11. You could get straight up 11. Nope, 12. Yeah, if it wasn't a mandatory grab a grade 2, you could technically, in theory, get 12 Force Gifts while your opponent's at grade 2. And they say Astro Poets was broken. Anyways, of course you can't do that because it's a mandatory grab grade 2. And then auto van, when it attacks, if your opponent's vanguards are grade 3 or greater, counter boss 1, stand all your Blaster Darks and they get plus 10. So he basically becomes the bitch of the group where he only supports Blaster Dark, and if you don't have a Blaster Dark, then he is a straight up vanilla. But on the bright side, he gets you at least 5 attacks, or what am I saying, at least 4 attacks, most likely 5. And he spams out your Force markers in the early game, so even if the Blaster Darks die, you can still abuse those Force markers later when you're on Dragruler Phantom. So our Mordred Phantom's really good in the early game, and I gotta say it, when I played this deck and I didn't get Mordred Phantom as my first grade 3 ride, all those games were losses. Literally every game I did not get Mordred Phantom, I lost the games by 10k. And what I mean by that is if I had 10k more, if I had 1 more Force marker, would have won. Guess how I would have gotten that Force marker? Mordred. And guess what? I had a Blaster Dark in hand those times too. But guess what I didn't have? Mordred. Yep, 10k. It was always 10k. I don't know why. Just happened. So, all around, Mordred Phantom's a really nice grade 3. He is literally the best thing you will see in the early game, and you want to ride this first 4 of. Then we have 4 copies of the thing that people will argue is the most important grade 3 in the deck. Again, I argue that it's Mordred, but whatever. Revenger, Dragruler Phantom. That is the worst name Bushy could have given this card. What I mean by that, I'd like the name Dragruler Phantom. That is cool. But just Revenger. Nah, bitch. You don't get to call Illusionary nothing. I called this Phantasmic Revenger. Dragruler Phantom, or Phantasmic Shadow Revenger, just because I like calling it that. Phantasmic Shadow Revenger, Dragruler Phantom. That's its new name. I don't care what Bushy calls it. So grade 3 200 Force Gift, 12, 13k base. I like the full eclipse. I like that sword with like the chain going around it with his hand. I like how his wings are really defined. I like that cape. I am such a fan of that cape too. And then the rest of his body's kind of meant to me. So his skill is auto van when he's placed on van by riding from a unit with Revenger and its card name during your ride phase. Why specify this? I'm assuming that has something to do with premium, but whatever. So it can work from anything. It can ride from a grade 3, such as itself, or this, or it can ride from a grade 2. Hell, it can fucking ride from a grade 1 if you managed it. Search your deck for up to 1 card with Revenger in its card name, call it to rearguard circle, and shuffle your deck. If your opponent has 4 or less damage cards, Soul Blast 1 Illusionary Avenger, Mordred Phantom, choose an opponent's Vanguard, and deal 1 damage to them. Phantom Blade Extermination is what I've chosen to call this. I know that's not its original name. I don't care. I'd actually be surprised that was its original name. But either way, it's a really good skill because you get a guaranteed search of whatever you want for free. Literally any Revenger for free. And then if you had a Mordred Phantom and Soul and they're not at 5, deal them a damage. It's cool. It's just a free damage. Downside is it doesn't nullify the damage triggers, which has almost come to bite me in the ass in some games, but that extra damage has actually won me a lot of games, so I will give it that. That is its actually most useful skill. Considering its second skill, it's won me games, but wasn't necessary. And its other skill is Auto Van. When this unit attacks, Counter Blast 1, Soul Blast 1, choose all of your front row units with either Revenger in their card names or Blaster Dark, specifically Blaster Dark, not Blaster Dark Revenger or Blaster Dark Diablo. It specifically has to be regular Blaster Dark. Retire all of the rear guards, all your other rear guards, not all of the rear guards, and all your front row units, including himself, gets +5 until end of turn for each unit retired. So if you nuked your entire back row, +15 to front row. And if you retire 2 or more units, stand all your front row rear guards. So what you do is you call 3 units to back row, you swing with, just to get more power, you swing with with the side columns first boosted, then you swing with this thing without boost because it's not going to fucking matter. Kill your back row, plus 15 to front row. This is at least a 28. What I do, it's probably a 38. Stand the front row, and you're swinging for at least 5 more attacks, and all of your attacks this turn have at least hit in the 30s. Especially if you rode from this first. If you didn't ride from this first, they're probably not in the 30s. All around, Dragruler is really good. He basically does Mordred's second skill, but to a better extent because it can get slightly more power and it can do it to a broader range because it's not just restricted to Blaster Darks, it's restricted to Revengers too. So it can combo with both of them. So it is an extra soul boss cost, but it's fine. It's still a really good skill. He can deal effect damage. He can board restand to some extent. Technically he does board restand because, since everything else is being murdered, it is technically a board restand because everything that's not dead is standing, but take that as you will. That's my argument. It's what's left on the board is what's standing. It's technically a board restand. Anyways, it's all around a really good card. Pumps numbers, gets 2 restands, gets multi-attack, deals damage, all the good stuff, 4 of. Then we have our force gifts, 7 force 1, 7 force 2s. Okay, let's be fair with you. You're probably only going to need 5 of these. I'd be surprised if you run 3 force gifts for whatever reason, you have balls of steel, considering I'm pretty sure if you run out of gifts, you won't be able to unride. You wouldn't be able to ride. So, if you have balls of steel, go for it. But I highly doubt you're going to win with those 3 force gifts. I mean, it's possible. It is possible, but... Again, doubting it. Anyways, so Force 1, the objectively better gift, when acquired, put it on Van Rear, and this unit gets plus 10k. The unit on that circle gets plus 10k during your turn. It can stack if you put it in the same circle multiple times. So if you have 3 on the same circle, plus 30 during your turn. If you have 5 on the same circle, plus 50 during your turn. You have 7 plus 70. You get the point. Force 2, while it can be put in the same circle multiple times, it does not stack. When acquired, it goes on a Vanguard or Rear Guard, and the original critical of the unit there becomes 2. So basically, the unit will always do 2 damage if it hits. That being said, if it hits, you get a lot less power. Here's the thing. If you're going for the rush on Mordred because you know your opponent's going to kill you on their next turn, and you know you have no choice but to kill them now, get Force 2, but only do that if your opponent's at grade 3, because otherwise you're just wasting your numbers. Just Force 1 is objectively better in this deck just because it makes your numbers actually bigger. Because think about it. Yeah, okay, you can do more damage if you do it with Dragruler Phantom because you have extra criticals. But when you're consistently hitting numbers in the 30s or 40s and then forcing them to drop at least 2 hand cards for each attack, that's going to do a lot fucking more than 2 damage per pop. I'm just saying. I trust me. I've done the numbers. I've done the calculations. I have literally played it with both gifts. Force 1 does so much more than Force 2 in this deck. Just saying. So go Force 1. If you want to go Force 2, go ahead. And then quick show when one of you uses attack is plus 5k for the battle. Just 5k shield you use for discard, but considering not much cards in this deck actually discard, use it as a free 5k shield because you can. And that's that for the deck. I hope you guys enjoyed. All around is very fun and powerful. Didn't really want Dragruler Phantom to be the card we got revealed for Shadows. I did have something else in mind. I won't say it because I want to see if Bushy does it. If Bushy does it, I'll be very happy, and I'm hinting to it now. It is something from G. It's a very specific unit from G. It is also a dragon. And if I remember correctly, it has green arms. Or maybe it has a green body and red arms. If you know what I'm talking about, then good for you. I've pretty much described it. In fact, I even said what it was earlier in this video, more or less. So, without further ado, I'm going to end it here. I hope you guys enjoyed. Play this deck if you want, because it is really fun using. And getting to be able to restand board constantly, or front row. Again, not board, unless everything else is dead. And in that case, that's my argument, still board restand. And being able to do multi-attack and get numbers is all around really fun deck to do. And it's really consistent with getting up the Blaster Darks. So, I hope you guys enjoyed. Do not forget to like, comment, subscribe, join Discord, follow Twitch, and I'll see you all in the next one. Don't forget to stand up your Vanguards.